important lesson, that you have a complex problem. Don't look at the complex problem. Look at or try to dissect it into little things. Have you go at one thing at a time, because then it's feasible, and then you build your little blocks you can then put together, and then in the end there's something complex.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. Today I have a really special guest with me. I'm really excited about this. I have Ingo Clemens on. He is the creative director and I think the founder and developer, all the things at Brave Rabbit. And I'm sure everyone watching this show probably knows who Brave Rabbit is and has used the Shapes tool or the Weight Driver or the Shapes brush or lots of other cool things that I haven't even touched yet. But
Smooth weights.
Smooth weights. Oh, I haven't. Yeah, we could talk about that one. But yeah, you've had a huge impact on the CG industry from a character, like a technical artist, character rigging perspective. How long have your tools been around? Maybe 12 years, 10, 12 years?
I think this year it's going to be like 10 years. I think I started like 2014, maybe 2013. I don't remember. It started sometime around that.
Yeah, I remember.
And of course, with a little bit of pre-roll, getting some of my own tools running and developing stuff for myself first, of course, and then finding out that, well, this is great. Maybe I can help out some other people. And so, one thing leads to another. You know how it goes.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember one of the first videos I saw of yours, you had an example of using, joint gimbal locking when you're using it to drive corrective shapes, and you're explaining, hey, you need like the vector angle driver, that type of thing. And I remember at the time, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. But it's really cool that you wrote a tool to solve that, because I think before that there was the Comet muscle system or the Comet corrective system. Do you remember?
There's the Comet tools, and he also had a pose reader.
Mm-hmm.
I think I never used it myself actually, but I looked at the code and I sort of understood where this was going, and the weight driver, the initial weight driver, got inspired by this. So I'm not gonna say that it's all mine. It was just inspired by Comet tools. But the reason why I implemented it into Shapes was to get everything into one tool. Because you know how it is. You download this tool and that tool, and you kind of patch everything together, and you see have to see how it works, or how you have to get it working. And I wanted to have all the stuff that I need out of the box. So you install one tool and you get everything for that particular workflow. This was what I was after, so I don't want to get any credit for the Comet-inspired weight driver tool. I took it a little bit further, I think. I don't know, but usually when I get into tools, I get ideas for tools. I look at what's out there, and I try to understand how it could be working for me, and then I try to take this idea a little bit further, because usually when people design tools, when they're good at coding, but they're usually not good at like the user interface or how it's implemented or these sort of things. And for me, it's I try to look at it not from the coding side, but from, I'm a user, I'm an artist. Well, I don't know if I'm an artist. I'm
100%, man.
And I want to make it as flawless, as easy as possible. I I don't just look at the code. I see how I can use it, how I can implement it in my workflow. And then I get all these ideas. Oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. Maybe, here are 5 clicks I have to do to accomplish one task. How can I? How would it be possible to reduce these 5 clicks to maybe just 2 clicks or maybe just 1 click? Of course, everyone is looking for this one button solution. And of course, it doesn't exist, but you try to streamline your work as much as possible without other things getting into the way. And this is how I like to look at things. And this is how I try to develop my tools.
That's awesome. Well, can you talk about your background a little bit, like how you went from, were you into computer science before computer graphics, or how did your development side develop, I should say?
I was coming from a totally different area. I was coming from I have a musical background.
Oh, awesome.
I worked.
I got my accents back there.
I have the guitar there.
Oh, perfect.
No, I was studying audio engineering, and I had a sound recording studio for a couple of years. And I worked at this one media school in the audio engineering area, and I was doing lectures and practical education and all that. And it was like around 1995 when this whole multimedia thing got up to speed. And of course, our school was into the media education, and it was adapting, of course, all the internet graphic stuff. And it was then when I first got in contact with 3D. I think it was like 96, 97. And we had this Silicon Graphics Indigo machine standing there. I had no idea what it was. I just got these flashes in my head when I tried to remember it. There was this big box, and it had this strange operating system running on it. Of course, now I know what it was, but I didn't know then. And I think I saw a glimpse of Power Animator back then. And then I tried to. I was getting really interested in the 3D stuff when I saw what the students were doing, and back then there were some. I think some of them tried to work with Power Animator, but the tool they were lecturing was Cinema 4D, even back in the days. And there was this one student. He did really great work for the time. It was all in its infancy, of course, but it was really inspiring for me, and so I tried to get in touch with 3D. I was trying to look for programs. I had no idea whatsoever, and I got a hold of Lightwave 3D, and that was my first 3D tool. And I had no handbook. I had nothing. I bought this Lightwave 3D book from, I don't know, I don't have it anymore. But and it was still referring to, if you want to read more, look at the manual. Well, I don't have the manual, thank you. But I worked my way through. I did my first animation, and it was a character animation, actually. All my first animations, I had to do something with characters, but I had no idea. My first hand was not joint-based, but it was blend shape driven, actually. Oh, wow. So I was doing this tapping animation, and I was looking at my fingers and trying to understand how it works, and I was sculpting or modeling these blend shapes.
That's
and
insane.
I was doing the animation with that, and then I did my first character animation, and it was this walking character, but I had no idea about inverse kinematics back then. So I animated that walk in forward kinematics. So that was fun.
I'm sure.
It took a while, but it was a great lesson to learn. And then over the years, I got more and more into this stuff. And actually, after my first animation, I thought that I wasn't too happy with Lightwave back then, which is stupid to say, but it didn't give me what I felt I needed. And a student of mine introduced me to 3ds Max back then. And I said, okay, give it a shot. And I had no idea what all these buttons were. So 1 week later, I asked him, okay, give me like 10 minutes of your time to understand what all these things are. Because there's these, when you open up 3ds Max, at least back then, I don't know how it is nowadays, but for selection and stuff, there are all these drop-down lists and there's nothing in there. And it's like, okay, there's a list here, but there's nothing in there. There's a list there and there's nothing. What am I supposed to do with it? And so he explained the stuff to me like in 10 minutes. And I said, okay, I got it. I understand it. And I think it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks later when I bought my first copy of 3ds Max, including Character Studio. And was really expensive back then. I think it was like 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, something back then.
That's insane.
But
yeah.
It was for me. It was I felt that's the direction I wanted to go. There was so me, but in order to force me to really learn the software, I wanted to buy it. That was my motivation.
So you're invested.
I invested and I read the entire manual from first page to last page to understand everything. And then I redid my animation I did in Lightwave before, just to apply everything I've learned. And that was my start. And then the more I got into 3D, the less I did the audio thing. I didn't have the recording studio back then anymore. And that was it. There's more 3D, less everything else, even more 3D. And then I did more character stuff and I was really interested. Then I had another student tell me, well, did you look at Maya? I said, well, I never heard about it before. And so I took a look and I found it really interesting, but it was too expensive back then. I think I waited it was half a year later when Elias Wavefront dropped the prices. So the Maya Complete wasn't that high priced anymore, but it was like 3,000 to 4,000 euros back then. And I said, okay, that's my starting point. And so I bought Maya, started my whole thing over again. I printed out the entire manual. I still have it, I think, somewhere. There's like these big folders of thousands of pages. Right. And I went through that and tried to learn it. And because I worked with Character Studio with 3ds Max before, I didn't have it with Maya. I said, okay, I need something equivalent. I need something to build up my characters. What is out there? And I looked at a couple of different auto riggers and similar solutions. And again, it was me like nothing really fit what I was looking for. There was this one tool and they had all these features, but it was missing something in particular that I was looking for. And another tool had this, but it was missing that. And so it went back and forth. And I said, okay, that's the point where I have to think about writing my own auto rigger. So I started, and so I went into this coding stuff. And okay, Mel, how does it work? I never got into Max Script. I never really understood it, but Mel was okay. That's something I could probably understand, and so I went for it and built this auto rigger. And it was just for me. I never planned to release it. And I think I never would because there's so many different people and applications out there. It's crazy. And I have great respect for all the people who write auto riggers and release them to the public and deal with all the different approaches and types of artists and concepts and whatever. That's not me. That's not my thing. I like little tools. Well, Shapes is actually a large tool,
Sure.
but it's still rigging it's so darn complex.
It really is.
And so it was just for me, and I was really happy with it. And yeah, that's how I got started in 3D and rigging and scripting, and then the road divided because I was never into working for a studio. I was always self-employed, and I was always on my own and working for different people in different projects, but I was never into working at a larger company. So my whole working life was very self-contained and very small and little. And of course, what you can do as a one-man company is not that much. And of course, character work is very complicated. It always was, and it always will be, until to a certain level. And I was never in the position where I got a chance to really do lots of character-based jobs. So people were coming to me and asking for different stuff. Can you do this? Can you do that? But there was never characters there. And if people approached me and asked for, I have a project and I need this character, how much does it cost? And then you boil it down and list all your expenses. They say, okay, it's too expensive. We're not going to do
much. Yeah.
And so this is what I mean with the road was dividing. I was very interested in all this character work, but there was getting more and more on the private side of things. And the professional side was getting more into visualization and working for the regular industry and doing industry jobs, some advertising, some documentaries, some whatever gets in. But we never had a chance to do character work on a larger scale. Sure. And so the character work and the scripting and everything that has to do with it started to get on this side track, but running parallel actually. So, and here I am. It's still the same thing.
That's so cool, man. That's a really cool story. I love that you kind of took your own path. You didn't jump into trying to get to work for a studio, and you kind of get in. You get like stuck in this rut where you're constantly just working on things for other people or in their own way. But when you're your own business, your own boss, like a one-man show, kind of like you said, you could pivot so fast, you could do what you want to do, and you could really explore deeply the ideas that you're interested in. And I think it shows in your work, and it's really cool. So one of the things I found really impressive about the Shapes tool is that you wrote your own RBF solver.
Yes, it's one thing that I'm very proud of, because this is 100% my own.
Sure.
No idea or groundwork done by anyone else. I read about it, I got interested in it, and I tried to understand it. It took me a long time to understand it.
I can imagine. So can you talk about like the process of doing that? Did you have to research like the mathematics of it and kind of to understand to get it? Like how did you go about that process?
I have no idea.
It just materialized.
Yeah, it started with the idea because I think there was always this the understanding that driving something based on Euler rotations is problematic when it comes to shoulders and hips and that all that. But I never found the actual solution to it or for a long time. And then at one point, I think that was in 2014, around that time, when I read about RBFs. And I thought, well, that's very interesting. That's very cool. How does it work? And so I tried to research and figure it out. And I'm not a math person at all. I'm actually very bad at math and physics and all of that. It really doesn't come to me very easy. But first, I tried to understand it from a general standpoint, and the concept is pretty easy. But then, of course, it goes into the math stuff, and I said, okay, that's not going to work for me. I'm gonna skip that part and follow another idea. I actually had a different idea how to make it work. And probably it's a bit too complicated now to explain it, but I had a different approach, and I tried it out, and I tried to solve it with Python because it's very easy to try out different concepts. But I hit a dead end, and it didn't work at all. The idea was great. I thought at that time, but it didn't pan out. And so I got back into the real RBFs, and I tried to understand it. And I went over and I read about it, and I looked at different formulas and trying to understand what it does. And it took me, the whole process was very, very long. And actually, like in between, I was again hitting a RBF dead end and referring to my old idea. This concept, it has to work. It's so simple, but it didn't pan out. So I went back to the RBF. And the whole process of understanding what it does and how it works took me like almost a year. But then I nailed it. And I was very happy that I nailed it. And because then I thought, okay, this is something very cool. And the initial idea when I read about RBFs and what it does, and that it's being used in larger studios, and that brought me to the idea, because of when I write tools, it happens almost immediately that I'm finished. I find that it's very helpful for me, so I want to share it. I want to help other people, because everyone in the realm of rigging is hitting the same obstacles, day after day, having the same problems. We're all sitting in the same boat. And we're all looking for similar solutions to get something work, because we love our job. We want to get our job done. We want to have a great result. We want to be proud of what we did. We want to enjoy what comes out in the end. But it's very technical, and we all are facing the same problems. And if I found a solution to the problem, I want to share it, because I want to help the other people get their work done faster. This is what always comes to me when I'm writing some tools, that I want to help people. It's like when you're doing art, or you being the artist, you work on presenting something on screen or in your painting, whatever. You want to fascinate people. You want them to feel the magic of what you did, the picture, of the emotions, what you put into the characters, and all that. It's like the musician wants to make the people feel the music. He wants to give them something. It's the same thing all around. Now back to the RBF. I read about the RBF. I understood what the concept was. I found it very cool, but it's restricted to the people who work at these large studios who can afford having their R&D department and having these developers there, having these tools, but these tools never see the light of day. They're always contained within the production because the production owns it. And of course, this helps people within the production, but it doesn't help anybody else working outside and trying to get the same job done outside of a company. And so I thought, okay, I need to come up with a solution for that and bring the RBF to the people.
That was really cool.
That was my idea.
I love that.
And I did it.
100% you did. I remember there was no RBF solver in Maya at the time. Now there is one, but there wasn't when you developed yours. And you made it free. You put it out there. It's still free today. It's the weight driver on Brave Rabbit. I use it to this day. I prefer it over the Maya one. I have wrote some facial rigging tools where in my face build I could place some transforms. Let's say for a lip corner, I could place like a up, down, out, in transforms, and those could drive the target positions for my lip corner. And those feed into the weight driver node to define those positions. So when you move the lip corner control around, the little wire, whatever it is that's driving your lips, follows and ends up in these positions. And it's a really cool tool. Maybe I'll make another video kind of going over that because the description probably didn't do it justice. But yeah, it's a powerful tool. And just in case somebody's watching and doesn't understand what an RBF solver is, basically what most character riggers use it for is when you have either a corrective shape. Let's say you put your shoulder in a certain pose and the deformation looks bad, and you want it to correct and sculpt it and make it look what you want it to look like. You could use any number of drivers. Let's say your shoulder joint, your elbow joint, maybe your clavicle. You have all these things, all these ingredients that go into that pose. And what the RBF solver does is you could take any number of those inputs to define a pose. Whereas before we were kind of limited to using one, maybe like a shoulder angle compared to the clavicle to drive that corrective pose. So with RBF, you have any number of inputs to drive that. And there's a lot of complicated math and things that go into that. And Ingo, having developed his own, is really impressive.
You know what RBFs do. You work with it, and you tried it. You understand the basic concept of it. There are a lot of people who are new to RBFs, and they heard about it, and it's this magical tool who can do so many things. And because I want to mention it because it's something that once in a while I get an email from someone asking about, I have this issue here and this problem with my character and the RBFs, and it doesn't do what I want. What I experience is that the people or the artists try to see it as the solution to use for everything.
Okay,
but
sure.
It's not the tool for everything.
Right.
It's theoretically, you have so many values which you can feed into it, and which then get interpolated and drive so many values on the outside. But of course, all these values need to work with each other. So if you do your poses and you do them all over the place, there's a lot of you're going to get a solution or a result in the end which is not perfect for all the in-betweens in there. But it's also some people try to have like a little, if you have the regular, you're bending your elbow and you want to get this the elbow fixed or your biceps or what it does. This is only a one-axis rotation.
Sure.
And to use an RBF to approach this problem is just too much. Why not use a way simpler solution for that? And why not use the RBF for all the cases where all the other solutions fail? And this is something that people need to understand, that RBFs are just one tool in their toolkit. And it's just not the tool. There's never just not the tool. You always have a set of different tools, and RBFs are just one tool in many tools of your tool belt.
Man, super valuable advice. I love the line of thinking, like the approach. Hey, let's try simple first. If that doesn't work, then let's try the more complicated tool. I love that. Yeah. I've run into or people have asked me, because I always recommend the shapes tool, and they always say, hey, I'm trying to get this elbow fixed, like you said, and they're using the RBF solver for that. It's like, oh, let's just use the center of the key or the vector angle. That'll work 100% of the time. I don't know. I've always been inspired by it, and it's a really cool thing. And I think you talked about art and music, maybe invoking feeling or excitement or all these different things. I think, technical developments could do the same thing to other artists, or other technical artists could see that and be inspired or be excited, or like, wow, this one guy did this thing, what can I do? All that stuff, man. It's really cool. It's awesome to hear about your thought process of developing it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the process itself. I mean, when you're starting, you don't see the end of the road. But what I learned from doing all these tools, and often starting without knowing anything about the subject at all, is, and I've found this very important, or an important lesson, that you have a complex problem. Don't look at the complex problem. Look at, or try to dissect it into little things, dissect it into little steps, and then have you go at one thing at a time, because then it's feasible, and then you build your little blocks you can then put together, and then in the end there's something complex. It's like when you have a seemingly complex shot to do. Of course, in the end, it looks complex. But if you really break it down to, okay, this character does this, and there's an explosion there, and if you just blend out everything else and just focus on one thing at a time, it's actually not that complex anymore. And this really helps me when I'm building tools to not be overwhelmed by what I have to do. I take a step back. I dissect everything. I take one step at a time, and this totally works for me.
That's great advice. I think so many times people in general might have a really cool idea or something they want to do, and then it just seems so insurmountable, or so like you said, it's so big of an obstacle that, like, well, I don't want to start down that path because I think it's just going to be a waste of time. I'll never be able to achieve it. And then people, leave a lot of cool ideas like on the back burner, and then they never see the light of day. But yeah, that's great advice, man. That's really cool. I could talk about the shapes tool all day. I feel like something I just saw on your LinkedIn that was really awesome was the Formula One stuff. That's pretty new, right?
That's totally new. And we're like I talked about, we're on two different paths. So I'm now we're two of us, because I'm working here with my wife. Awesome. And she's also doing 3D. She has a little bit more going to the motion graphics side of things. I'm more into the coding side of things and technical aspects. So we're working together on most projects, and putting our heads together. And sometimes we have different projects according to our strengths. But what we're doing right now is lots of stock production, stock videos, which sounds a little bit dull, but you are not restricted to clients, which can be naggy at times. Mm-hmm. And you can, it's easier to try out new ideas and to try out stuff you haven't done before, or something you would really like to do, or you're more flexible. And we're generalists. So I've always been a generalist, and I always will be. In the past, when I was still teaching at school, I was not only teaching audio engineering, but also 3D and compositing and everything that goes with it afterwards for many years. And my students used to ask me why I didn't, or said, well, with your skill set, you could be working at DreamWorks or ILM or whatever. And I said, well, maybe I could, maybe I should apply, but it's not my thing. Because usually, at least back then, hardly anyone was looking for generalists. And I get bored if I do the same thing for a long time.
Sure.
If I have 2 weeks of modeling, I'm sick of modeling after that. If I do 2 weeks of texturing, I can't see texturing anymore. I want to do something else. So I need the change. And I'm probably not this regular worker who's fine with what he does for a living, for his everyday job. I totally understand those people, but I need the change. It's like, that's how it is. And this is why I never went to this direction, and probably that's why I never got into character jobs, whatever. But we found our own path, and now we love to do this stock animation stuff. And when we started with it, we actually had, I think it was 2 times where we had clients who were thinking about a Formula One project. And the first project got kicked very early on. So because there were no funds, it turned out, like after a couple of days. And the second one was canceled like halfway through the project. But it didn't matter. But we had some assets, and we said, okay, we just want to try that. And by that time, we already looked into doing stock animation. So we said, okay, maybe it's something we produce all that. Maybe we'll just try to sell it online. And it worked really well, because our I think the Formula One animations are, at least for us, our best-selling clips.
That's cool.
As funny as it is, I don't know.
But they're just really awesome. I want to share my screen while you're talking, just so people can see. Do you mind if I play the? Let me
just go ahead.
Share real quick. Let's go to entire screen. So let's see. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. If you haven't seen it, I love this quote by Michael Schumacher. That's awesome. I love the music. Oh, you got to turn it down a little.
Yeah, that's something you have to, like when I posted it, I said, well, do full screen, turn up the volume. It's really cool.
It is super cool, man. all these shots. So were these shots inspired by like actual race footage, or did you kind of?
No. I just run with it.
It's so cool. It's I'm into
It's
MotoGP stuff, and I've seen some stuff where people have used drones to catch like live race footage that's really dynamic. And this kind of reminds me of like, yeah, just this type of stuff, man, is really, really awesome. Just gonna rewind it a little bit. But.
Yeah. It started pretty simple, but then I thought there was many years ago that doing like single stock footage clips is okay, but especially with racing and stuff, you have short of very quick cut succession. So it's cut in a fast way, and usually just one shot isn't sufficient. So you need more shots, and stuff needs to fit together. And then I was developing the idea. Okay, how about we have an entire track, and we have in the past it was one car. Now we have several cars. To produce several clips which can be cut together at your own for your own needs, because every project is different. And then, of course, and this also very interesting that thing that comes with stock animation is, especially Formula One is something which calls for being customized. Put your logo on, put your custom camera there, change the color, whatever, do something with it. And in the past, we get some very interesting customizations from actual clients. So, and of course, we are changing, or we're diverting from the actual stock clip, which is, of course, very, in comparison, cheap. Of course, the customization cost, but the clip is, I think if you buy it on Shutterstock, it's like $70 or something, which is, of course, that's one clip, whatever. You can get it customized for $250. Which is still a bargain if you think about how much it would cost you to get it like created from scratch. And so this is very interesting for these sorts of productions. And we had two very interesting clips or productions. One was I don't know if it's known in the US. Here in Europe, we have like a toy creator, Brio. It's called. And
I'm not familiar.
They have this very famous wooden race car toy. It's red and it's stylish with this driver. He has a yellow head and he got these wheels. And they said, okay, Brio, our client, he likes your Formula One clips, but he wants to put this car onto the track.
Of course.
So that was very interesting, and we didn't know how it would turn out because it's how would a toy car or an obvious toy car look on the big road? But it worked out pretty well. And cool. The other thing was we got a call from a studio in Amsterdam, and they were doing a project for Telecom Netherlands, and they wanted to. They had this promotion where it was also featuring a couple of Formula One clips, but they wanted to have it at night instead of during the day, and so we customized it for them. And a couple of weeks later, I was on vacation in Netherlands, and I was scrolling through my phone, and all of a sudden I saw this ad like, oh, this car looks familiar. Oh, that's my car. Awesome. Because usually when you work for various clients for industry, you never see what it's actually being used for.
Sure.
It's very rare. It's not like you're working on a movie and you go to a theater and you see what you've done. You just do something, you get your money, and
a little more
you
obscure, maybe.
probably never see how it's being used, what the people say about it. But that was actually kind of nice to work on an ad with customized stock footage, and then to see it all of a sudden. So that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And then we decided, okay, the Formula One car is really getting old. I want to bring it up to date. So I did, like, for a long time. In between, I remodeled the car. I redid the entire track. We're not working in Maya primarily anymore. We switched to Blender. So all of that is pure Blender. The only thing I did is compositing in Resolve with a little bit of color grading. And then there was this moment, the trailer for the I think it comes out next year, for this Apple film, Formula One with Brad Pitt. I saw the teaser. I saw this car, which is like this black and gold, and it's not this pompous with too many logos on it, like the regular Formula One, but it got this very cool, sleek design. And I said, well, that's my design. I got to do that. And so I did my own version of this design, and I changed the lighting around and some other little things around. And this is how I created this trailer, because it was twofolded. One thing, it was for me because I wanted to do something. I wanted to get away from my red and white car we were producing for stock, because I've been seeing it for so long.
Sorry about that.
I wanted to have a different design. No problem.
Okay.
And the other thing was, it was like this homage to this upcoming Formula One movie, and it was just, that's the red and white flame design, which got actually copied a couple of times on Shutterstock, iStock, and so on. So people seem to like it and produce their own clips. But the one thing people who produce stock animations are usually pretty good about the models, the lighting, everything around, but usually the animation sucks.
Right.
And I try to have a focus on the animation, on being on having something special there. All these shots are basically stock footage clips. And you just we have so many of them now. You just put them together and create your own little story or whatever you need.
That's really what I find cool about that is it's not the typical path that somebody takes as like a business decision, I guess, for maybe like a small studio. So I'm curious, like, how did you kind of balance out the return on producing like stock footage clips with like the cost of the upfront? I mean, obviously this took you a lot of time. I mean, you built a whole track, you textured everything, you rigged these cars, you animated everything, you rendered it, you composited it. That's a lot of time and a lot of work.
Yes.
How did you, when you were first working on this stuff, did you have the idea, okay, let's start producing stock footage clips, or did, like, how the profit, like how do you predict that, or how did you say, okay, this is going to be worth it to try this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to answer because it's always you're producing like out of the blue, or I don't know what the saying is in English, or into the blue. That's what we say in German.
Out of the blue sounds, yeah.
Yeah. So you have no idea where it goes. So you, of course, you try to catch something which is which you think is maybe going to sell because it's what the people do right now, or as like what we do right now is green energy and electric transportation and all that, because it's what is being needed these days. Or go into car manufacturing for electric vehicles, or something that maybe doesn't sound like too much fun, but it's not really the subject, but that I'm trying to get something out from. But I try to develop some cool ideas and to have fun in building something and give it a cool lighting and doing some great animation. So get inspired by any task that is possible, and you just try to find a subject which you think might sell. Of course, you never know, so you put your effort in it for maybe like 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks top. Then you produce a couple of shots, upload them, and see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, then you do something else. And with Formula One, it was we never knew that it would be such a bestseller, actually. Mm-hmm. But what we put in, actually now I rebuilt the entire track, and it's, like you said, it's a lot of work, because I don't know if you're into environment building, like
not too much. Yeah, not too much.
I mean, imagine you have a 2.5 kilometer long track, and you're putting on your curbs, and you're putting your barriers and rails and grass, and you're painting this. It's a long ass track. 2.5 kilometers is a long ass track. So that's a lot of work. And but in the beginning, we before we built the track, we had with a couple of very, I think now, boring shots, but they sold pretty well. And then I said, okay, I need something more. I need more track to build more interesting camera animations. But by that time, I knew that it would probably there would be a demand for it, because there was a demand for this very easy shots. And so I figured there would be a demand for some more elaborate shots. And so I went for it. But you never know. There's projects where you think, okay, this is looking very cool, but it doesn't pan out for whatever reason, because you don't know what the people do with it. And there's other things where you put in only a couple of days of work, and it's a bestseller, and you don't know why. It's like you post something on social media. At the time you post it, you have no idea if you only get a couple of views, likes, hits, whatever, retweets, or if it's going through the roof.
Yeah, thing. For sure. Do you have any advice? Let's say someone like myself who might want to go down my own business path, or kind of become a one-man show, or similar to like what you guys are doing. Do you have any advice for someone going down that path? Maybe some business advice, or like, hey, like maybe avoid this pitfall, or here are some suggestions. Do you have anything special like that?
That's a good question. If I would know the answer, I would be way richer than I am now. But I think for me, as far as working for clients is don't know what you're worth. So that's one thing. So try to be honest about the costs, because I think in general honesty is very, very important. I remember there was this one job which I had very early on in my career, but I was together with my girlfriend back then already, and we had a call for a huge job, and we had until the next day to decide if it's going to work out or not, and about manpower, about costs, about everything. So we spent the entire night putting our heads together, doing a calculation, and we came to the conclusion for the time we have to finish the project, it's not going to work out. Almost no matter how many people you throw into it, because even if you have a lot of people, they need to get started. You have this initial phase which just eats up time. Mm-hmm. And we had I think 2 weeks for the project, and it was massive. And we said, it's not going to work out. And we had this call, and we said, we have to be honest. We want to be honest. Not possible. And they said, thank you for being honest. That's great. We follow what you tell us, and it was fine. Everyone was fine with it. So that was for me very important in general to be open and to be honest right from the beginning about a project, and also about the costs and the pricing, which of course is important for the client as well. If you just go on and for yourself, you know, okay, I'm going to put in even more work, and it's going to be very expensive. But if you don't tell the client that it's going to be a lot more expensive than he expects, there's going to be a very large discussion at the end. So be honest all the way. So if you hit a certain point where you say, okay, I can do that, but it's going to get more expensive, just tell them that's what the current situation is. Let them decide. If they say, okay, we're okay with a little bit more cost, go ahead, that's fine. If they say, okay, we don't have more money for the project, then you figure out an alternative solution, or maybe have an alternative ready up front to just be, because I mean, they want something, you want something, there must be a middle ground somewhere.
Sure.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is, for me, it's important. That's also what comes out from working with different people in different jobs. It's important to have someone you can trust and you can rely on. I always told my students in the past, it's not my primary interest in seeing how good you are. For me, it's important that I'm going to get your result, your work at the time I need it.
Yeah, that's very important.
I'm working with clients. We have a deadline. It needs to be done at the deadline. Of course, it needs to have a good quality, but it doesn't need to be super hyper perfect at that point, because if I have someone who is very dedicated in what he's doing and he's very good and very skilled in what he's doing, but he takes like 2 weeks longer than I need, he's not going to be any help for me at all.
Not at all.
So there's this balancing thing, and of course, I think this the balance is something we all have to find for ourselves, because we all love to go into the details. Oh, do a little bit of twitching here and there, and the mouth corner here, and the ear, and whatever. All of that is, of course, something, because it's something we like to do, and it's something we like to put our time in. But it's easy to forget that it needs to get finished.
That's great advice. I think as a technical artist myself, you get lost in the details. We get hung up, I need to make this finger look perfect. And it's like, okay, you don't see it in any of the shots, but you're just nerding out about this one thing or, whatever it might be. That's awesome advice. I appreciate it. Ingo, I won't eat up all of your time, but I love having you on the show, man. This has been really, really fun for me and inspiring. And I'm just a big fan of your work.
It was great to be here.
Yeah, really cool, man. Thank you so much.